Discover the Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast, hosted by Tiffany, Benitez, and Jordan Franklin. Here, the complexities of being a woman in the tech industry are unraveled through discussions on key issues, personal growth, and how to succeed despite systematic challenges. It's a source of empowerment and inspiration for all women at all stages of their tech careers. We are so excited to be here with you today. We have another amazing guest to share with you. This one is near and dear to our hearts with women in technology and just in general for Jordan and I. So we have Devayani Supekar here. She was born and raised in India, hailing a family where academics was always the primary focus, irrespective of gender. But she grew up to be a dedicated advocate and enthusiast for bridging gender gaps, what our heart's all about here with women in tech. She has a bachelor's degree in engineering and a master's in science from the University of Texas at Dallas. She's worked in several areas such as supply chain, governance, data strategy, and finance technology during her decade-long career. She's currently in a new role. We are so excited for her as a senior program manager after being in the product space for 3 years at Walmart. She also serves on the leadership panel for an ERG and the Women in Tech at Walmart. So proud of her. She's passionate about diversity, inclusion, uplifting women in tech, and takes great pride in supporting nonprofits across Northwest Arkansas. We can definitely attest to that with what she has done with Women in Technology of NWA. And she's also currently serving on the board of the NWA Women's Shelter. Some fun facts about her: she's an avid hiker and she enjoys traveling or trying new cuisines in her free time. So welcome, Devayani.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This is so exciting. And I am so fortunate that I, first of all, met you ladies. And second, so excited to be here. Thank you for inviting me. This is a true honor, really.
Well, we're super happy to have you on today. And as you all know, the purpose of our podcast is really to dig in and talk about topics that matter to every woman in technology, bringing awareness to many of those topics that have never been talked about, and really talk about like authenticity across the space, right? So Devayani, with that, everyone knows our podcast is all about authenticity and how authentic people are. What does authenticity mean to you?
There's something called fitting in, and there's something called standing out. To me, authenticity in the true sense just means belonging. Wherever you are, just the way you are. If you belong and you're yourself, you are being your authentic self.
No, absolutely. Absolutely agree. If you're not being yourself, how are you relatable? How are you relating with others within your group, within groups outside of you? How are you networking if you're not authentically being you, right?
Exactly. And I'm doing a disservice to myself and to those around me if I have to change who I am to be a different person in front of Tiffany and a different person in front of Jordan and a different version of me at work and a different one for my friends. I am one person, and the way I am should be authentic and real.
No, absolutely.
I love that.
I was going to say one more thing. It's almost like when you're growing up and you're little and you're like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do because this is what everyone else is doing. And your mom's sitting there in the background going, no, that's not going to matter. Like, if you're yourself, you'll grow up and be just fine, even if they don't like you right now, you know, like, so you've got to kind of hear that little voice in your head going, be you.
You know, Jordan, you made such a good point, although I would argue that some of us may or may not have gotten that from our mothers because they may or may not have gotten that. And so that's, I think, the importance of us sitting here talking about the things we're talking about today is that women need to hear that. Like, women need to hear, like, stop watering yourself down. Like, your whole version of who you are is enough, and it's what you should be. And guess what? The hard part of that is that not everyone's going to love that. You're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but you don't alter that. You go to the people that it is their cup of tea, and those are your people, and those are the ones that you influence, and those are the ones that you impact. If you spend all of your time and energy focused on those that don't really care for you and probably won't regardless of what you do, like, you're doing a disservice, to your point, Devayani, to yourself and to the community around you. Yeah. Okay, so we love technology. Obviously, we all three on this call are sitting here as women in technology, are technologists, right, Jordan? Right, Devayani? Yes. We are technologists. We are here. But Devayani, I want to hear, I know we've talked about your decade-long career. You've done some really amazing things at some really amazing companies, but how did you make your entry into the tech industry and, like, your personal journey on inspiration on why you actually made the move into that career?
And I did not plan this career for myself. Honestly, as a kid, I was that nerdy person who would take part in all the competitions and math Olympiads and science bowls and whatnot. So my love for STEM basically transformed into my love for engineering. So after high school, I went to an engineering college. My major was electronics engineering. Fun fact, none of my tech jobs had anything to do with electronics engineering. This is what I figured out after I got an engineering degree, that I don't want to do this as a full-time job. I want to explore areas adjacent to engineering, yes, and having that technical background helps me to be better at whatever I do. But it's so much more than engineering. And I did not know that until I stepped into the real world. So I would say, yes, my entry into STEM and into tech was because I had a liking for math and science, but it changed over time. And that's what I really love about being in technology. There's so much more you can do, and you can navigate those different areas. When you're a technologist, your options are endless.
Yeah. Question for you. You know we're passionate about this, so you're going to know where I'm coming from. Do you feel like if as a young girl, you knew that there was more than just engineering as an option for technology, that you quite possibly, like you probably would have still explored engineering as a base, but do you feel like you quite possibly would have wanted to try and test some of those other roles before you just initially took an engineering role?
100%. I did not know enough. My father used to be working as an engineer. He's retired now, but he was an engineer. He used to open up all my toys to look what was inside that was making a noise. So like that was my exposure to technology in the house as a little girl. And then my other friends and cousins who were all like math geniuses were all going into engineering fields. And for me, my choice was, do I want to be a mechanical engineer or an electronics engineer or a computer engineer? So my horizon, in my opinion, was really broad as a teenager. Oh, I have all of these engineering options. But if I knew there was so much more outside of engineering, I would have definitely forayed into that. Because as you know, I did my master's in science, and my degree in my grad school was a mix of tech and people. Because you know me, I'm a people person and I'm an extrovert, and seeing people thrive and succeed is what drives me. So if I had known earlier on, sure, I could have done something different, which would have involved a people aspect to my tech aspect as well. So, and that's important, right? Telling the young girls, like, there's so much more. And if engineering is something that seems overwhelming or scary to you, don't do it. There's so many other things you can do.
Yeah, I think you bring up such a good point, right? Like in your family, everyone was like kind of in the engineering, so you saw it all the time, right? I think that brings up the point that we've got to show girls and our younger generation in technology what is out there. What can they do with what they love, right? Because I wanted to help people in my childlike view. Helping people was being a doctor, right? So that's what I went to college for. And that's what I classed it into. But I think it's so much more and so much deeper than what you know, how we talk about it. Well, we liked it, so we kind of did it, and then we found what we loved, right? But if we're like showing them all those options younger, then maybe they find what they love faster, and they're like way succeeding us, right? Way better than us when they get to our ages. Sorry, just went off on a tangent. Just really loved what you were talking about.
It's a cycle. Just knew there were other options. They would have exposed me to that. If we know right now there are other options, it is our responsibility to expose the next generation to that so they can make better decisions and so on. So it is a generational thing that I don't think anybody is responsible for. It's just not knowing and being in a different time, which we can and we should change.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so through this walk of, you know, finding your right career, did you ever like really encounter any gender bias or anything like that you needed to overcome? Or did you ever feel like there was like something stopping you from getting to where you wanted to be? Was there an impactful moment there for you?
I can think of a few examples where I felt that me being a woman was seen more than me being a technologist. If I had to give an example, and I'm sure many people who will tune into this episode will say, yes, that. Sometimes, let's say I'm in a room full of extremely talented people, but I'm the only female there. Then maybe the note-taking responsibility would come to me without me volunteering for it. Or if I'm in a team setting where majority are males and some of our wonderful colleagues are celebrating a birthday or an anniversary or a work milestone, guess who's ordering the cake for them?
Yep.
I have no problems with being the party person. I love cake and I love ordering cakes and I know where to get the best cakes. But I also know that a John Doe can also do the same job as a Jane Doe can. So assuming positive intent helped me get by that. I will be lying if I said, oh, it did not bother me at all. It gets to you and it upsets you mildly as to why would you just assume that I know all the best bakeries, or worse, why do you think I would bake a cake? Because I'm really bad at baking. That's why I'm saying
Me
this.
too.
So
I'll make your cake next time, guys.
yes, please bake for us. So it was upsetting at first to see that the default setting in people's mind is the lady must have great handwriting and she's going to send us the meeting minutes and she's going to be taking the notes. Why can't everyone take turns doing that? Right? Why can't we ask the person who's celebrating a milestone what cake he wants to eat and then decide as a team what we want to order? So it's little things like that when you're at the receiving end of unconscious bias. And I use the term unconscious very deliberately because I know nobody wants to disrespect you, intentionally. They're doing that because that's how they're programmed. That's how they've grown up. That's how they've seen women in traditional roles, being the caregiver or the party person or the planner or the nurturing side. So ask those questions when you encounter those, hey, thank you for entrusting me with this responsibility. Can somebody else do this time? I got one last time and I don't want to haul all the attention. Ask the questions and put the ball subtly, politely, however your style is, in their court. And you will see it shift. It will not happen overnight, unfortunately, but it will happen never if you don't say anything.
Absolutely. I've made sure that my handwriting skills are so bad that I never have to do that. And somehow everyone that works alongside me they're fantastic. They're mostly men too, but they're fantastic note takers and like deliberately so because I suck so bad at it. So I totally understand, but I learned in like 5th grade, like, I don't really need to improve this skill. I think there's going to be something to fix that.
Sometimes there's more to it than sexism. There's also a subtle power dynamic involved.
Yep.
If you're the most junior person in the room who's fresh out of college, you'll be very afraid to say anything like that. Yes, I will do all the cake ordering. I will be the note taker because I'm trying to establish myself as a go-getter, as somebody who takes initiative. So maybe it's, how those stereotypes are shown in movies where the intern orders coffee for everybody. Sometimes you don't mind doing that, but at the core of it is something a little more biasy, if that's even a word.
But I want to do it when I want to do it. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be dictated to do it. Correct. And I just have to say, because you brought up interns, we have Indu, who's been our fellow, and she's fantastic. Indu, if you're listening, you're fantastic. And she's so good. Like, I feel like I've seen like a little bit of a shift in the next generation because she's so good at saying, okay, I can do this, but I can't do that. And she speaks up for herself and she's been so deliberate about it. And it's actually really relieving being someone that's over, because then if you just hand something off to her and you expect them to do it, then you're almost a little annoyed that they didn't get it done, right? No matter who it is. But for her to speak up, and it's a room, I mean, I'm the only other female, there might be 2 other females in the room, right? And she's speaking up to a group of men that have been, that are 35 plus, right? And she's 20. So I even gave her a kudos the other day. I was like, I'm pretty impressed with you.
But the point is, right, is what you said, Devayani. Like, you have to speak up, and it's okay to say no. That does not like impact your career. You figure out how to say it, to your point, right? Like, I want to make sure everyone has a chance. So I think speaking up is key. The huge, I would say, key focus of today's podcast. We talk about so many things. Authenticity, of course, is our theme, like, overall, but we really reached out to you, Devayani, with regards to the topic of mentorship. When I think about mentorship, I automatically always think of you. You are so amazing in this space. When I just think about people who make goals and who set a plan and go achieve that and leverage people around her to really do that, I consistently think of you. And so I want to know, like, when you think about getting a mentor, how do you kind of think about what that suitable mentor would look like, and how do you select people that you think would be good for your professional growth and development?
Well, first of all, thank you. It's really flattering how highly you think of me. And yes, you are right. I love people, like I mentioned previously. And mentoring is something that is very near and dear to my heart because it takes a village, If I'm saying that, oh, I got here all by myself and I'm a self-made person, I'm not being authentic, which again is the theme of the podcast, right? It takes a village. I have learned from people who may have taught me things directly by sitting me down one-on-one and explaining how things work. Or
let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, Women in Technology of Northwest Arkansas and Gumption at my-gumption.com for their support. Their contributions are critical in bringing these meaningful conversations to you. Stick around for more engaging discussions right after this break.
I have learned from people by just observing their behaviors. I was just telling Jordan this earlier, that when people in positions of power, people in leadership roles model good behavior, I will unintentionally start following that because they are truly leading by example. So coming to your question on finding the right mentors, sometimes people will say, and I have been told this before, you need to know what you want. I don't think that's true. Sometimes you need somebody to help you figure out what you want. What I will say is sometimes you need to figure out where you are, and that will help you find the right person. To elaborate, let's say I am in a career of my choice and it's my dream area, and I want to progress vertically in the same space that I am, then I will go find somebody who has a wonderful history and has been in my space before and has moved on to do bigger and better things. That will be my person to guide me on what my next step should be. If I'm at a crossroads where I'm trying to switch gears and transition into a different tech area or a non-tech area even, I will go look for a mentor who has had a diverse set of roles under their belt, because they will be the best people to speak from their own experience on how navigating change has been for them, or how they knew which was the next step, because change is scary, let's be real. And when you talk to somebody who has been that person is more or less your sounding board. You're bouncing ideas off of that. Hey, I'm thinking of making this jump and quitting my job and doing something of my own. Am I crazy? Please help me understand. And they will help you guide through those challenges that you're facing. So knowing where you are is the first step in finding the right person for you who will be your mentor.
Yes, no, I 100% agree. If you, again, authenticity and mentorship go hand in hand, right? You have to know who you are to make sure you're matchmaking yourself with the right person, right? And sometimes, I will say, sometimes it's another person that knows you a little better and says, hey, I think so-and-so is going to be a great mentor for you. Yes. And it's someone you didn't even think about, but really understanding who you are, if you're the one matching yourself to a mentor, right? And not being afraid to ask.
That's it. That's the key. It's not, I think we are afraid sometimes that someone's going to say no. We make assumptions based on what we see, that they're busy. I think it is really, really key to always ask, because you never know. That person may just be waiting, right, for the right person to come along and mentor. And they'll tell you, don't ever be offended if the answer is no, right? You want someone that has the time. And based on what your goals are, they may not feel like they're the best fit either. And they'll be willing to recommend someone. So always ask. Don't feel bad if they say no, because they're going to recommend someone else that likely can. And just make sure that you're really prepared with what you need from that person. If you come to me and say, hey, Tiffany, I want you to mentor me. Okay, but why, right? So thank you, but why? Like, I need to know what you need out of this relationship so I can honestly tell you neither of us have time to waste. Who can agree we do not have a bunch of spare time laying around, okay? So, yes. So it's like, we need to know what you need from the person as a mentor in like very clear, so they can say, yes, I'm the person for you. I can commit to do this. And if not, they can recommend someone else. So I really, really love that.
I mean, that is another advice I got from one of my mentors too. Like, unless you ask, the answer is going to be no. If you ask, maybe it will be a no, but if you don't, it's for sure a no. So don't be afraid of asking. There's another aspect to mentoring is, to your point, Jordan, knowing yourself. What atmosphere do you thrive in? Would you benefit the best from a one-on-one mentoring? Would you be more comfortable in a circle? Or maybe I am the kind of person who is very shy to speak in a circle and open up, because a big part of, getting mentored is being vulnerable and showing your areas of improvement as well. So if I'm not comfortable in a group setting, maybe a mentoring circle is not the best option for me. Maybe a one-on-one mentoring is great. If I'm in a position where I just need thought partners, not thought leaders, maybe peer mentoring is what's meant for me. That is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated things you can invest your time in is peer-to-peer mentoring. It's basically having a bunch of friends in a professional setting. Is you want your own kind of group or kind of your tribe to help you and help each other in the process. So knowing yourself is definitely a big key.
But I think you're so right with the peer-to-peer mentoring. Like groups of peers can come up with so many great things, even if they're cross-divisional, like, they're in different divisions within an organization or even different companies, right? Some of my mentors have been my competitor companies, and they're great mentors because they know where we are. They know, I mean, we call them CEO circles, but it's the exact same thing, right? We're all going through the same thing, trying to figure out the same thing. But I agree. The peer-to-peer mentoring is highly underrated, but is so vital. I also think something that's really vital is using showing our children how they too can be mentored from a young age and growing them up in that. And so that when they get older, they're so confident in themselves that they know what they need, they know what they want, and they know where to go and get it. Right? Setting those mentors up that are your friends or that are your partners and that can help in different areas is so great. I stink at finances, FYI. So like I have friends that are in banking and in finance and all of those kind of things. So if I ever get a question for my kid on that, I'm going to be like, there's a person over there to go chat with. But I think setting those up for your kids, leads to success too. Sorry, soapbox.
Yeah, no. It's good. Devayani, okay, so I know we have a couple more questions. Just really, I know it's so hard in these because we come up on time before we actually even realize, but you are a woman leader, right? And you're in the tech industry. And I think that we need to be talking about and hearing from so many different perspectives on how we do this, how we lead this, what's important. And your inspiration and your knowledge is invaluable. And I want to know what legacy you hope to leave as a woman leader for all of the rest that are coming in technology.
Wow, that one really is going to make me think because I haven't really thought of what I'm leaving behind because I'm so busy just doing it as we speak. I'm so busy building my legacy. I have not given a thought of like what I will leave behind. But I do believe that I want to touch as many lives as I possibly can because every interaction I've ever had, big or small, work or outside work, or even in circles like Women in Technology, there are so many wonderful people out there, such incredible talent in our community. Just spending a few minutes with them teaches me so much. And I want to leave a positive impact on everybody who crosses paths with me, and not just me leaving a positive impact, but inspiring them to do the same. We all have a very limited time on this call and on the planet Earth. So we have to do our best to help fellow human beings in the best way we can, because you never know what the other person that you're speaking to is going through.
No, I so agree. We spoke with Cherise, was one of our previous podcasts. She said the same thing, right? Like she spoke to a class, kind of didn't think anyone was listening. And then one of the girls in the class went into cybersecurity and came back a couple years later and was like, hey, you pushed me into this field, right? So being that positive impact constantly, you don't know who you're impacting, right? You're trying your best, but you don't know who you're impacting. And for that being said, right? Like if you were impacted by somebody, let them know. That makes them feel good. That's like telling me I look cute today, right? Like that's something you want to know, but not everyone has the gumption to go and tell you, hey, you made a huge impact in my life, right? But I think everyone kind of wants to hear it, especially those who are so genuine like you in wanting to make that impact, right? Just hearing one person say, hey, you made a huge impact in my life and you didn't even know it, right? Just taking that chance to go and tell them means so much.
Everybody listening in, go tell one person, just one person who made an impact in your life. Thank them. Send them a text message. If you're like me and you love handwritten notes, leave a note at their desk or something, or mail them something. Just tell them that they made an impact, because they may not even know that simply by being themselves, they have impacted you. And they deserve to know.
Yes, no, I absolutely agree. I love that. Hashtag Women in Tech Impact.
Oh my God.
What'd you say?
Devayani, you impacted me.
Oh, Tiffany, you are too kind.
I said hashtag Women in Tech Impact. Yeah. No, I definitely love that, and really definitely think that that's something, we don't take the chance to do, but encouraging our mentors and even mentees, right, to really have that open conversation. Like, this was really helpful to me. This wasn't really helpful to me. Like, positive and negative is always so good to make anything better moving forward, So what, like, your evolving role, what and your legacy you want to leave, right? What do you think next steps are for you? How are you going to get there? I know I'm throwing this question out there at you, but I kind of want to know what's Devayani's, goal in the next 5 years, right? We talked about the overall big goal, right? The big, hairy, audacious goal. What's your 5-year goal? How are we getting to impact hundreds of thousands, right?
My mentors know I love lists and I love color-coded things and just cross references. But I have 2 focus areas. I wouldn't call them goals, but 2 focus areas which should not change, whether it's for the next 5 or the next 50. The first is growth. And that growth can mean learning and networking both, because learning to me means like keeping yourself updated. In the tech industry, things are changing by the minute. So you have to keep yourself updated with industry trends. That's one of the things I want to be mindful of. Actually, deliberately taking time off to learn things, to read books, to enroll myself in courses. I know it has lots of certifications. I might do a couple of those as well. So learning, continuous learning is always my top priority, and I encourage everybody to do that as well. That's learning within growth. There's also networking within growth. There are so many communities around you. Find your tribe. Go find a mentoring circle. If there isn't one, make one. Tiffany will vouch for it. She's clapping there. I see you. If you don't have what you want or what you're looking for, make one, and you do not realize how many more people will benefit from it. The second thing is advocacy. First is growth, second is advocacy. Advocate for yourself. I will go out on a limb and say, as women, it's not the easiest thing to do, is advocate for yourself. There are researches and studies and statistics behind this that we will only apply to jobs we are overqualified for, right? Advocate for yourself, but also advocate for others. Speak for those who cannot speak for themselves, and you will grow as a human and as a person from advocating for yourself and for others. As for my next 5-10-year goals, I know I digressed a little bit there because this is my forever goal. It's never going to be checked off my list. It's always going to be there. Growth, learning, networking, advocacy. For my next 5-year goals, I do want to see people thrive. I want to develop talent. That's the top in the next 5 years, because that is one thing that I thrive on. I feel like I've succeeded as a leader, as a person, as an employee when I see people that I'm leading succeed. So helping people achieve their goals is my goal for the next 5 years. That's my immediate to-do list.
I love everything you just said there. And I totally think that is like your takeaway, right? Those 4. I am super passionate about networking. I always say network equals net worth. The better and stronger your network is, the better and stronger you're going to be financially, everything, because you're A, advocating for yourself, and B, networking with the right people, right? But I definitely think those are great takeaways from this segment too, right? If you're focused on growth, networking, advocacy for yourself and for others, a little statistic to throw in there: women don't apply for jobs unless they're 100% qualified for the position, right? Men apply for jobs when they're 30% qualified for a position. Mm-hmm. So let's give ourselves a little leeway there and say, hey, if I'm 100% qualified for a position, probably going to be bored. Why am I even moving from the position I'm in if I'm already 100% qualified for this other position, right? So let's take that risk and understand we can learn and grow and get that extra 50%, but go out and search positions at your 50%, 60%. You're still going to be better than maybe your counterpart that applied himself to that position, but you're also going to be challenged in that next position, right? So that's advocating in my world. That's a form of advocating for yourself and saying, listen, I know I can learn it. Now challenge me to learn it. I've done it here. Now I'm going to go do it there.
That is such a unique way to say it. Like, if I am 100% qualified, it's boring. I never thought of it that way.
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't you? Like, I'm 100% qualified for the position I'm in right now.
I'm not learning. I'm not growing.
Right.
Yes, that's right.
Then why am I going to go apply for another position that's exactly the same?
Yes.
I need to find something that I'm not fully qualified for, but the core of it, I'm qualified, but maybe there's some extraneous things, right? And that's going to challenge me. So always make sure you're challenging yourself too, right?
Yeah.
And really pushing yourself to be better, because if we're keeping status quo, then we're never growing. But
I love it.
So, okay. So we had those 4 things. Is there anything else you want to add for our viewers today to leave them with so that they can take on their weekend and be like, I'm going to go do it?
Yes, because you mentioned one thing to take away on your weekend, giving back. Everyone, if you're listening into this episode, you know these women and you know their passion for giving back to the community. Going back to what I said earlier, it takes a village. For everything you're going to set out to achieve, you will not be able to do it on your own. There are people who may not be as fortunate as us to have an entire system of support. Be that system of support for somebody. It can mean different for other people. It can look different for you. It can be, just volunteering at a local nonprofit. It can just be educating the next generation. Whatever giving back means to you, do it. It is very satisfying. And it will give you such a good sense of fulfillment at the end of your day or your week, however you deem fit. But giving back is something all of us are very passionate about, and we never stop talking about it.
Yes. I love that.
I love it. Well, Devayani, thank you so much for joining us today. Listeners, thank you for tuning in. We are so excited to continue bringing topics to the table where we really get to hear from influential leaders in the space that really can talk to us about the different topics that we have interest in, the topics that we never talk about. So Devayani's socials will be at the end of this, along with our Women in Tech Trailblazers socials. So continue to follow us and tune in. Have a great rest of your week and weekend.
Subscribe.
Thank you so much. Yes, please subscribe.
Well, that's a wrap. Another episode of Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast. Thanks for tuning in and sharing this time with us. If you liked what you heard, please share this episode with your friends in tech. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Your support helps us keep bringing in inspiring guests and uncovering topics that matter to you. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and making your mark in the tech world. Goodbye for now.